What is good, everybody? Welcome back to Jim Dropper Sports. I'm your host, Sean T. Stewart, back here with another solo episode because technology is not always our friend. We ran into some technical issues with our recording service, so now we're kind of doing what we can to give you guys the content that you all subscribe for. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The South Carolina Gamecocks started out their SEC play at home against the Vanderbilt Commodores, and this game went about as terrible as you could imagine. For a South Carolina team so far through the first 3 weeks that have not been able to find a consistent rhythm on offense, have not been able to find their ground game. Defensively, even there have been some things that have piqued my interest in terms of why aren't these things being resolved? Why can't we start certain facets of the game? All of those things came to a head in this game against Vanderbilt. You saw a Vanderbilt team that was well coached. You saw a Vanderbilt team that was disciplined, and they took advantage of South Carolina. Do I still think South Carolina has more talent on the field than Vanderbilt on a daily basis? Yeah, absolutely. What you saw though was a team that knows its identity, and for better or for worse, coaches that understand how to put their guys in position. And I'll hark back to Mike Shula. I know Shane Beamer's answered questions this week in his pressers about Mike Shula and starting to gain some frustration that these questions are still arising. But at the end of the day, Shane, we all sat here and have watched Mike Shula continuously put up about 14.5 points so far through his first 4 or 5 games. So what do you want us to do? Like, why? The frustration should not be with us. The frustration is the fact that we have a quarterback that everybody in the nation believes in. We have weapons that we brought back that we thought would take a next year leap with another year of working together, and we haven't seen any of that. You've implemented the freshmen, Donovan Murph and Brian Rowe, and I'm not. The reason why I'm never a fan of it is because we're watching these guys having to learn how to play college football on our dime, if so to speak. Like, I don't need to watch you have to learn how to play SEC level ball in the heat of the fire of an SEC game when there are guys on the roster that helped us win games last year that are now sitting on the bench. Like, I understand these guys have probably more physical upside than the guys that they're playing in front of. I completely understand that. That doesn't always mean you're the best player to play right now. And I don't believe there is not a follicle in my body that believes that Mazeo Bennett cannot play SEC football all of a sudden after starting his freshman year. I don't know if there's an injury we don't know about, something that's lingering that from maybe the summer that we weren't privy to. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm not going to be the one standing on the couch for Jared Brown acting as if Jared Brown was this world beater last year. But Jared Brown did make plays in games that helped you win. And all I'm saying is, if you're going to run this stale offense, I don't know if you need to run it with freshmen. Like, I think you're ruining their development. How much better are you going to get with this type of offense? Like, I know Beam said something like to the effect of, like, man, we're getting on them about the play calling, but these are the same plays they ran last year. And see, brother, that's the problem. They didn't work last year. And the reason why I fooled myself into believing that Mike Shula would be a better fit for this team is because I'm like, hey, maybe he saw the stagnant nature of this offense last year, and we thought in certain junctures of last year, I went to Texas A&M being one of the critical ones. We thought that felt like Mike Shula's hand was in the mix with some of the play calling, and it worked out, and we thought it worked out. Now, mind you, we have zero proof for any of these things, but these are just thoughts based off of these were things that we saw Cam Newton do in Carolina during Mike Shula's stint there. And I think that was obviously the biggest selling point for me was that, hey, this guy worked with the NFL MVP Cam Newton, but then I have to also remember that Cam Newton was 3 years into his NFL career when he started working with Mike Shula. So this is a guy that's played a lot more football and at the highest level at that, and already shown that he could play at that level. It wasn't like he was trying to figure out how to play in college still. But for whatever reason, Shula and Lenore Sellers have not clicked. And I think it all boils down to the stagnant nature of this offense. There isn't much creativity to it. There isn't much eye pop to it as well. Like we don't utilize the fact that we have a track runner on the field. We don't utilize that we have a quarterback with a big arm. We're trying to make Lenore be a pocket passer at this early juncture of his career, where that is something that while I understand, look, that will prolong your career. Being a pocket passer will prolong your career and for the long haul, but it also will hurt you if you're not ready. Like the name of the game here is we gotta win. If you want to sell me on this pro style offense and preparing guys for the league, prepare them boys to beat Vanderbilt. Prepare them boys to beat Missouri. Prepare them to do that, because we don't. Unfortunately, as fans, like what they do in their NFL career has no bearings on what happens at the University of South Carolina in terms of us winning games. You feel me? Like it matters very little. Like Spencer Rattler is starting to show now that he can play in the NFL. Well, that didn't help us out, because when Spencer Rattler was here, you couldn't facilitate an offensive unit good enough to make us a better team. You feel what I'm saying? Like it does nothing for us necessarily. You know what I'm saying? I understand maybe a selling point for recruits, but I would think that guys like a Dylan Stewart that are here want to win games. I don't think Dylan Stewart came here to lose to Vanderbilt. You know what I'm saying? I don't think Nick Harper did that either. So these are the things that I think are the most important. Like, winning football games is the most important thing. And right now, with the amount of weapons and if you're telling me you feel so great about these young guys, then do something to get them more involved. These are kids. These are 18-year-olds, bro. Like, why are we asking them to just, hey, you need to simply just run this route and like no creativity, no nothing to get them boys in the flow of things or get them boys going. Like, none of that. So it's, I don't know. I've lost all stock I had in South Carolina football is in the tank. They gotta show me. You're gonna have to win games now. I won't jump out on the forefront and on the front lines to say which I think you guys will do, because as of right now, after that, I don't have, like, how can I have faith in you for the rest of the season? 31-7 at home. I don't know what you want fans to do in terms of having faith in what we have moving forward. That's the reality of it. So, defensively, the secondary is not nearly as strong as I thought it was either. That's another realization I had to come to as well during that game. Brandon Cisse is definitely the best corner. You don't have Miles Norwood, my brother. I need Judge Collier back like I need air. Like, that's how desperate I am to get him back on the field, because Miles Norwood, man, I think transferred from Ball State. He does not look like he belongs here. I think sometimes there's a reason why some of these guys were where they were prior to transferring, and I think he's one of those guys. I know, and in years past, South Carolina's been really good about grabbing those mid-major guys and bringing them in, like Debo Williams, for example. He was one of those guys that you brought in from a mid-major. He comes into South Carolina and his game grows, but not here, not right now. I need Judge Collier back because we don't have any cornerback depth. I don't trust that we can. I mean, we're playing against Vanderbilt receivers, dog, and I'm watching a guy look like he's scared to death to get beat deep, and he did get beat deep in certain times in that game, and they didn't connect. Run defense wise, the linebacking core, I was very disappointed how they played against the run in that game against Vandy. Now I know Pavia, he's a guy that he will test your discipline as a defense for sure, because he is creative. He will try things, he will do things, and there were plays that he even made in that he attempted in that game that if they go our way, obviously these are huge plays. He had one pitch back that was like one of our defenders made a play on. Ball's loose, but nobody's able to get their hands on it and recover it, to change possession. So, I think having a linebacking core that hadn't played a lot of football, Fred Johnson hadn't played a lot, Sean Murphy hadn't even played a lot, even at Alabama. So you're still watching a guy. You're still watching a group of guys grow. And I'm not saying these guys cannot get better. I'm just saying that from the expectation level that we had, they're not anywhere close to that. And how you go into Mizzou, brother, I'm gonna be honest with you. Y'all go ahead and get ready for this ass whooping that's about to come our way. Truth be told, I think Missouri's gonna run the ball right down our throat. Missouri's been one of the best. I think Missouri's been probably I don't know where they rank, but I would probably assume Missouri is probably like a top 20 rushing team in the nation so far through the first 3 weeks of the season. They haven't played anybody. Truth be told. But damn it, neither have we. So do with that as you must. Our defense will need to be able to be a factor in this one. Like if you can't get stops, we ain't gonna have a chance because I don't know what to make our offense. With Lenore dealing with the concussion and possibly having to start Luke Doty in a critical SEC game, I have no faith that the guy that's never had a game where he's looked like a college level quarterback is gonna have that game on the road at Missouri. So that being said, I'm off of South Carolina for the rest of this episode. Let's move forward and let's talk about Georgia versus Tennessee. This was the most entertaining game of the weekend, or of last weekend at least. This game featured what I thought we would see from Josh Heupel's offense. A lot of high flying, high octane, you know what I'm saying, taking their shots down the field, making their shots down the field. Joey Aguilar had great moments in this game. Joey Aguilar also started throwing up baked potatoes with extra sour cream in this game as well, and that also was what probably played a part into why you lost this one. I'll give Georgia credit, man. Kirby Smart and even Mike Bobo as well. Boy, they made some adjustments. They figured it out. I didn't think Georgia would be able to figure out offensively how to keep pace. Gunnar Stockton, never been in this situation before. He's still learning. He's young in terms of quarterback play, in terms of the sheer amount of games he's played. One thing they did figure out, and one thing that I liked was, hey, look, man, they figured out quickly. We got better athletes on the edges. It's hard to tackle our receivers, who are essentially damn near running backs with the ball in their hands, and guys like Zachariah Branch and David Bell. They got the ball out to the flats. They got them out in space. They allowed them to attack. They allowed them to attack the edges, and the the Tennessee defense had no answer for it. That was a big time win. That was a big time win. That was a game that I did pick Tennessee going into talking with the homies before the game. I thought Tennessee would win that. It was at home. Joey Aguilar had showed me a lot so far through the first couple weeks of the season. I thought that he would continue to do so, and he did. And that first quarter was phenomenal by Tennessee. It's, can you continuously press the gas on that? Can you continuously build on that? And Georgia showed their championship pedigree for sure. In the SEC that feels like it's wide open, we should be getting to the point where we start to figure out who are going to be the players. Georgia is clearly still the number one player in this conference. So kudos to those boys and what they had going on. And other action, there really wasn't a whole lot. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Florida versus LSU. The Florida Gators went on the road to Death Valley, and DJ Lagway's got a long way to go, man. It's we talk about all the quarterbacks that were being touted coming into the season, like Lenore Sellers, Arch Manning, DJ Lagway, Cade Klubnik, Garrett Nussmeier. Only a not many of them have continued to live up to it. DJ Lagway had a 5 interception performance, and this is one of those where it's tough to win on the road in the SEC. I get it, but my God, the kid's career. I'm not writing off the kid's career, but he's got a long way to go, and it's a long season. But my God, that boy needs some work. Florida needs some work. I don't see how Billy Napier and his crew make it another season after this year if they don't figure out how to get it together. There's just no way you can continuously put out these types of performances. You're supposed to be the offensive line. That's what you were here to do, and you have this talent in DJ Lagway, who was a 5-star, I believe, that has not been able to figure it out thus far. And I get it. Quarterback development is in a weird space. We're in the worst era of QB development that I think I've ever witnessed. And it's tough to watch these guys struggle because I don't know if because how do you, because nobody showed me that they can fix them. Nobody showed me they can take where they're at right now and form them into form them into a proper pro. Form into a proper college player. That's the issue that we've seen. And so far, Billy Napier's in the same boat. I don't think the Florida fandom will continuously stand by while they get thrashed in key games. Mind you, even with the 5 interceptions, you were down. You lost that game 20-10. So you weren't out of it. So I think that makes it even all the more worse. It'd be one thing if you did that and you got blown out. You did that and your defense still gave you chance after chance. Then you go over to the LSU side of the ball. You got to win. And win is a win. And in today's day and age, when I have no idea who's going to be like the key players in a conference, you just want to rack up as many as possible. LSU's still undefeated. Their bottom line is still their bottom line, which is compete for a national championship. Yeah, they'll be fine. I think LSU, as of right now, if you're asking me, LSU looks well, I haven't been impressed since their week 1 victory, and obviously their week 1 victory doesn't even have as much weight because what that team has gone on to do since. But LSU still, everything's right there in front of them. I guess I'll move on to the Alabama Crimson Tide. They played a game against Wisconsin. They're in Bryant-Denny Stadium, and they went out, and Ty Simpson, impressive. Ryan Williams, impressive. And they're an example of the season isn't over after one game. It is not, especially after week 1. I think we found out more about Florida State than we found out about any of the other teams that got huge wins to start the season off. But back to Alabama, I mean that was the type of game that you needed to have. Because we don't know what type of team you are, so I can't sit there and say, oh, you only play Wisconsin. Yeah, you play Wisconsin, but we don't know whether you are this dominant force. We're looking at the logo and we're looking at the name of the school, and we're saying we want to give you things that you haven't quite earned. And that team had to go out and show improve. Ty Simpson looked phenomenal. He looked much like how he did in the early stages of that Florida State game, right? And I think that's big for him. Because I do believe, man, I do believe in him. He has, so far throughout the early season, he's been a very pleasant surprise, and I believe he's going to continue to ascend in the quarterback rankings as we continuously move on throughout the season. And I think with that team and that coach, he should probably be, if they go 10-2, right? And he puts up 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns, he's going to be in the Heisman conversation. That's what will be the reality for him. He will be in a Heisman conversation. And getting Ryan Williams back on was good to see. You know, he had a slow start to the season. Things are good. Things are good for Alabama, man. And I mean, we can just take a deeper look as to what they may have going on. You know, as we move on throughout the season. They play Georgia this upcoming week. Well, no, sorry, they play Georgia on September 27th. So you got a week off, and then you play Georgia on the road. Big time game. They got a lot of big games coming up. You start looking at, they got Georgia, Vandy, Missouri, Tennessee, all in a row. And you go on the road to South Carolina at a point like that. It's a tough schedule. Once they start conference play, it does not stop. It is not easy. There is no joking about what they have to deal with for the rest of the season. So they're gonna have plenty of opportunity. If they end up coming out of this game, if they end up coming out of this schedule with only 2 losses, then I think they've done a phenomenal job. And Kalen DeBoer would have gotten this team back to where they need to be for sure. So just looking around some other places, I don't think. Oh yeah, of course, Clemson versus Georgia Tech. Yeah, Clemson's just done. There's nothing really much to say other than like Dabo's lost his touch. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, you have 5-star guys that aren't developing what like they need a philosophy change in that building. Yeah, I don't know, and it may start with Dabo, but I don't. Here's what I tell the Clemson fan, just in all seriousness, without me hating. I don't know who else is out there, and do you want to risk starting over and trying to reset this whole thing, or do you want to try to let the guy that has done it multiple times, multiple national titles, a bevy of conference titles, they've won 8 of the last 10 ACC titles, do you want to let him figure it out? It's a thought. But I didn't watch. I missed a lot of the 12 o'clock games. I was busy. I had other stuff going on, but watching them at the end of that game, that just isn't a Clemson. That isn't a team that, like, when you tell me, man, you got TJ Parker and Peter Woods on your front line, that ain't how I expect a team with that type of talent to get moved around. You know what I'm saying? That's my thing. I think that's where I'm used to when you had guys like Christian Wilkins and like Dexter Lawrence and cats like that you couldn't run the ball on. There was no running game in the nation that could run the ball on these guys. Now, mind you, Haynes King was the best rusher in that game. Haynes King had 25 carries for 103 yards and a touchdown. Jamal Haynes only had 12 carries for 26 yards. And Malachi Hosley had 3 carries for 13. So Haynes King did most of the damage. Haynes King also did what I said he needed to do after week 1, which is, if you can have a balanced attack, he threw for 211 yards, ran for 103. I think Georgia Tech's gonna win a lot of games if he does those two things. Now, I think they gotta keep him on the pitch count though. And there is no way Haynes King makes it through an entire college season with that much of a load on his shoulders. But Brent Key, again, one of those coaches that we talk about, and I'm a huge fan of him. He coaches a tough football team. He coaches a disciplined football team. That's a team right now that in the ACC, they legitimately have a shot. And again, the more and more I think about it, and I guess this is random because I think Florida State had a bye week this week, but I'm very impressed with. I'm impressed with some of the teams I've seen in the ACC overall. Let me just say that I've been impressed with North Carolina State, who they've not played a marquee game yet, and that people have cared about. You play Wake Forest so far, and you play Virginia, you play UVA, you won both, and CJ Bailey, a quarterback, he was a true freshman last year, sophomore this year, has gotten better, and the more they progress throughout the season, they got chances. There's plenty of opportunity there for North Carolina State to stake their claim to an ACC title. I don't think they will. I think they're going to end up around like 9-3. Dave Dorian coaches a tough football team. They figure out ways to win. It's not always pretty there, but they figure out a way to get it done. But then I look at Florida State as well. Florida State, to me, so far through the first few games, has been the most impressive team. Even when you win over Alabama, that's great, right? That's the impressive win. But what really sold me and what really got me like, oh damn, they're doing a little bit more than that, is when you play East Texas A&M. And I know everybody would say like, bro, it's East Texas A&M. Are you not supposed to dominate that game? Are you not supposed to run that opponent out of the building? You should be looking to get all of your guys some burn in a game like that. And that's true. And they play Kent State this upcoming weekend. So we're not gonna find out more about Florida State in this game either. But what I will say is that when you do what you did, you won that game on off the heels of something like 77-3. That's how you're supposed to win games like that. That's what you're supposed to do. Because I've seen plenty of teams so far this year, they get to that cupcake game and they are lackadaisical. It's very lackadaisical effort, not a great execution. And how do you keep yourself composed if you're not playing an opponent that's up to your level? You finish them. That's what you're supposed to do. That's how it used to be for the good teams. So they play Kent State this upcoming week. Then they'll play Virginia on a Friday, September 26th. That's a weird one. You're on the road to Charlottesville. I think UVA is better than what people would think. Don't sleep on that one. That's a game that can step up and get you. But because it's a Friday, Because it's a weird. You're going to be playing on a short week. You're going to be going on the road at that. Like, it's a weird one. Be very careful of a game like that. But their matchup against Miami on October 4th, I will be there. Not physically, but I will be there to tune in, because that's gonna be a marquee matchup. That's gonna be a game that's gonna determine a lot in the ACC. I think the ACC runs between those two teams, Florida and Miami, Florida State and Miami. Those two teams will determine the ACC, which I think is great for the game. When the state of Florida, like my brother Ace said a few weeks ago, when the state of Florida is good, college football is good across the board, and I do believe that to be the case. If I took a look at some of the matchups coming up, right? Let's just take a look at, and obviously I'm probably going to look at the top 25 matchups and see if we got anything there. Texas Tech versus Utah would be something I'll look out for. Texas Tech is, that Big 12 conference is not one that we talk about a whole lot, but I believe that's a noon kickoff game. I believe you see a lot of points scored in that one, truth be told. Other than that, Auburn or Oklahoma. That's the big time SEC matchup. I'm looking at Oklahoma. They've gotten better. They look like they've taken on the mold of their coach. They look like they've acclimated to playing in the SEC. I feel as if this game, Auburn can show us a lot, because I said something about Auburn a couple weeks ago along the lines of, I don't believe they're world beaters. I believe they'll be a good team. I believe Hugh Freeze will put together a good team and they will be competitive. Well, the chance to go on the road to Oklahoma, 3:30 kickoff, is damn sure a chance to go ahead and show us what you can do. Go show us. Jackson Arnold, go show us. Cam Coleman, go show us. John Mateer, though, for Oklahoma is rising up some draft boards. People are starting to take notice of him. Big time opportunity for him as well. So I will be tuning into that one. That is one of those sleeper games. Michigan, Nebraska, I'll pay attention to it. Michigan, Nebraska, one of those you will see me pay attention to. Florida and Miami, dog. What if Florida wins? I don't think it's out of this world to say Florida could win that game. Now, I thought Miami had an impressive win over USF over the past weekend, but just saying, it's there are possibilities. I'm taking Miami though. What I'm saying, truth be told. Other than that, nothing really crazy going on in the top 25. Like, these are nothing spectacular is happening, but is what it is. So with college football being done, I gotta get into it. Carolina Panthers on the road against Arizona in week 2 did exactly what you try to do when you want to piss a fan off. You got down 10-0 within the first 5 minutes. Bryce Young takes a sack on the first drive, fumbles. They recover, scoop and score, touchdown. Throws an interception on the following drive. They get a field goal. Down 10-0. Your defense, for what it's worth, held strong. They had some moments. They play a much better game here in week 2. They play a much better game there in week 2. But press pause on all this. Just got the notification that the spring transfer portal window has now closed. So it looks like all you're gonna have is the initial opening after the season. I believe, I could be wrong on that. You're gonna have that initial opening, and that's it. No more spring transfer portal. If you start with a team in the spring, you will finish with that team through the fall. I think you will have to play the season out throughout the fall, and then you'll be able to leave once the season's over with. And I am not mad at that. It will cut down on the amount of tampering that goes on. To a degree, right? Tampering's still gonna happen at an insane clip. It's happening right now during the season. Phone calls are being made, offers are being put out there and whatnot in order to try to secure some of the services of some of these kids. But what'll happen is it'll have to all be done by the fall. You'll have to make that decision quicker. You won't get a chance to make multiple of them. Once the season's over with and you start the spring, that is over with. So I can read this article written by Max Olson. College football is officially moving to a single offseason transfer portal window, the NCAA announced on Wednesday. The Division I Administrative Committee voted to approve a legislative change that eliminates the spring transfer window, but did not sign off on establishing a January 2nd through 11th as the lone portal window for FBS and FCS players. In response to feedback from student athletes, the FBS and FCS oversight committees will discuss modifying the dates and length of the proposed January window. The administrative committee will consider those adjustments when they meet in October. So, yeah. So, again, nothing's confirmed. Nothing's set in stone, but that's what we have as of now. Now, back to the Carolina Panthers. So, we'll just start over from scratch, right? So, the NFL-wise, you know I'm talking about my team. You know where I'm about to go with this. The Carolina Panthers played their Week 2 matchup on the road in Glendale, Arizona against the Arizona Cardinals, and they figured out a way to... They get creative. The Panthers are very creative at how they piss you off, bro. This is a very creative team. So you figure out a way to get down 10-0 within the first 5 minutes. Then you figure out a way to get down 27-3 somewhere like midway through the third quarter. Then you figure out a way to come back and lose that game 27-22 with the ball last to have a chance to win the game. This team is very creative. Very, very creative, and I hate how much y'all irk my soul. The early mistakes, man. For Carolina, early mistakes will always hamper this team, and until they can figure that out, then we'll never have a chance. I know many people ask me like, man, don't you feel good that your team showed fight? Bryce Young found a way to play well throughout the course of the game. He had some big time throws. He made some big time plays. I'm like, yeah, but I seen that already. I saw that already. What do you want me to do with that? Saw that in the last year. He did that all for the last 2 months of last year. That's what he did. What do you want me to do about that? I know he can make those plays. We drafted him number 1 overall. So it's like when you do these things, it's not like am I supposed to throw the pom-poms up and cheer and kick and all that because you made plays that a first overall pick is supposed to make? Now, I understand, considering what happened to him his rookie year, considering what happened to him last year, like him gaining that confidence is a good sign for sure. But, dog, I need to see, and it's not all his fault. The thing about it is that a lot of the problems start from top to bottom with the Carolina Panthers. And I have to look at Dave Canales first. Dave Canales is not the play caller he would believe he is. That he tries to tell us that he is. Right? He is, for better or for worse, he's been very mediocre. Probably below average if I had to say it. He has not been able to consistently find a rhythm to the offense. I believe that he does not commit to the run, which was a knock on him coming out of Tampa. And I still see that be the case right now today. We're not able to run the ball effectively. Which leads to Bryce Young throwing the ball 55 times. Which is why I'm not overly impressed. That's why I'm not overly impressed, because I'm like, dog, like you threw the ball 55 times for like 328 yards. It's not. I mean, you were down 27-3, so I understand where the play calling, like why the play calls went that way. But my whole thing was this: while I was watching the game, I said, man, I think they were down 27-15 at this point. I said, I want them to score again because I would like to see. I want them to score again. I want them to have a chance to get the ball back because I would like to see what they would do when the game is within reach. You got the ball back and you did exactly what I thought you would do, which was blow it. That's exactly what I thought you would do, because you put together the worst drive of that game. That job was only overdone by the opening drive when you turn the ball over. That's what you are. Like that's the problem I have. Is that the worst drive you put together? Like you put together your worst drive since the opening drive when you turn the ball over. That's my problem. Because see, it's cool to do these things when you're down 27-3. I know people will say, I know within the Panthers fandom, the argument has been, man, those weren't garbage time numbers. Like those were legit. I'm like, cool. Hey, how about I do this when we're down when the score is 0-0? Like what are we talking about here? And I'm not saying that I don't think the sack and everything was Bryce's fault. I think that was I gotta look at the play calling and say, like, dog, we gotta have a better outlet for Bryce when the blitz is coming. There has to be something better to go to. Bryce's ball security has to be better, but there has to be a better option than just sitting there putting Rico Dowdle up as using Rico Dowdle as an H back to try to get an extra block. Like, why is Rico Dowdle of all players being used to get an extra block? Brother, if you don't throw Tommy Tremble's big ass back there and let him do that, that's what tight ends are for. Not my running back. Not my running back who I don't have a power. You don't even have a power back in your stable. So why are we using this guy as a designated blocking back? A guy that ran for 1,000 yards last year is being used as a designated blocking back, and you've not figured out a way to get him going yet. I don't know. There's a lot of issues with the Carolina Panthers, and I think it really stems from Dave Canales and his play calling. And again, I was a guy that I was high on Dave Canales. I was high on the hiring. I thought because of what he did with Baker that this could work. This could translate. Then Liam Cohen came in and did better than Dave, and then it looks like the guy after Liam Cohen is gonna do better than him with Baker Mayfield. So I may have to look at Baker Mayfield as it changes how I have to look at him and what he's been able to do with the coaches that he's been given. So I don't know. The reality for Carolina is this: if you can't decide to come out and do these things on at the start of the game, what do you want me to do? Like, what am I supposed to be proud that Bryce Young had that performance? I guess, but I mean, are you going to do it consistently? Will this be the norm for you moving forward? Can we take care of the football, right? Xavier Legette, hey, can we show up to the party? Now, here's the thing. The popular thing to do to Xavier Legette so far has been to continuously harp on it. Man, 8 targets, -2 yards. Look, I get there's not much to defend when you look at the stat sheet. But then when you look at the targets themselves, you go through and look at those targets. There are about 4 of them are screen passes, a few of them are balls that are thrown in the dirt, and a couple shots in the end zone there at the end of the game. I don't think these were the best targets for XL. I think that what they tried to do and what they tried to implement with XL never really made sense, because when you look at what XL did in college and his lone, productive season, it wasn't the screen pass, it wasn't jet sweeps, it wasn't any of that. Those actually didn't work at all for him. So I don't understand why, somebody brought up an old clip of David Canales in his presser after they drafted XL in the first round last year, mentioning those very same things in terms of how he would want to use them. That's not what he is. XL's a big dude, right? He's a big guy. One thing I know about most big guys like that, going east and west is not going to be their forte. Like, this is a guy that he's better once you get him rolling. He's more of a locomotive than he is a bullet train. You know what I'm saying? He's not like that's not what he is. You got to get him rolling. I think what made him great at South Carolina was that he pressed teams vertically a lot. He really tested the discipline of your DBs and the discipline of your defense. Because I'm going to press up vertically. You're going to have to go make a play with me. And he made those plays. I look at him in Carolina, and last year, he got more of those vertical pressing routes. This year, it seems like those routes have gone to T-Mac. Rightfully so, because T-Mac has been phenomenal through the first 2 games. But when you do that, I see mostly the only vertical routes I've seen from Xavier Legette have been pretty much clear out routes to work somebody else underneath. That's it. None of them. He's gotten none of those. And so if that's going to be the case, then I don't think you're using them correctly at all. Does XL have to be better? Absolutely. I ain't saying XL's played great by no means. I ain't saying he shouldn't take some heat for how these performances have gone. I just also think that if we don't think the quarterback is at fault for how some of these games have gone, then why would we then say the receiver is at fault as well? And I think it's because, hey, T-Mac is getting good work, but it doesn't, just because one receiver isn't being used correctly doesn't mean all of them aren't being used correctly. Like, the offense is, T-Mac shows you every single bit of the upside that people said about him during his pre-draft process. Even from a speed perspective, his game speed is fast. He's never gonna run this blazing 40, but his game speed shows you every single bit of what makes him dangerous. And Carolina definitely got them one with him at wide receiver. They're not gonna have a chance to do anything this year unless they figure out that second receiver option. Jalen Coker's still working his way back. Bryson Tremaine looks solid so far, and I think you may have to give him some more looks. And Xavier Legette, at least as of Wednesday, was dealing with some hamstring soreness, so we don't know whether we even see him this week at all. I don't know. There's a lot of questions to be left to be desired. But on the bright side, though, Princely Umamiele on the defensive side of the ball got his first sack against Arizona this weekend. That was good to see. Getting Nick Scott off my football field, I think that makes that team probably a lot better. If you don't feel like there's a better option on the roster than Nick Scott, then no surprise here you didn't know how to build this team up. But you can't keep asking fans to watch that. That's all I'll say. You can't keep asking fans to watch that. I keep seeing my secondary, my corners. They look great. J.C. Horn, that brother's locked down. That brother's bona fide. Every single bit worth the $100 million that he got in the offseason. For those that wonder why he got paid that, dumbass. Even Mike Jack as well. Even Mike Jack has played well so far through these first two games. I ain't mad at what I've seen from both of those guys. Those guys have lived up to their expectations. I wish that we would give the linebacking core is still very much a problem. Christian Roseboom. Why? We're just out there running. We're just out there doing cardio, dog. We're not doing anything. We're not helping anybody. We're not changing changing the game at all. We're just out there catching vibes for sure. So, yeah. Carolina Panthers play Atlanta this upcoming week in the home opener. You're tasked with stopping Bijan Robinson. I don't know. I don't know. Michael Penix is going to be out there with Drake London. He's going to be out there with Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney, all those cats. I don't know. I don't know I don't know how this defense plays. How does the offense come out? You lost Robert Hunt with a torn tricep. Austin Corbett's out. That's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but yeah. How do you come out? Figure out a way to stop Bijan Robinson and hope. And dial up some blitzes, man. Dial up some pressures. We're one of the worst teams in the league as far as getting pressure. Dial them up. We're gonna have to send extra bodies, dog. If the linebackers can't make plays they can't make plays when they're not blitzing, at least let them get downhill and try to be aggressive, at the very least. So that's all I have on that. And I guess we can move on to some other games. Kansas City versus Philadelphia. Travis Kelce. Look, man, it's over for Travis Kelce, dog. It was over after last year. And the more and more, and I guess this is a non-football conversation kind of, but dog, bro, that man he's a Swift. He's a Swift. I don't think his mind and his heart is in the game anymore. I haven't seen a level of focus out of Travis Kelce that you've seen in previous years. One would say, oh man, they won a Super Bowl when him and Taylor first started dating. I think Travis has moved on from football. And football's moving on from him as well. Because you look at the plays that didn't get made in that game. They were there. They were there for him. And it's not all on Travis Kelce. He's the easy target because, of who he's with. But also, you look at Patrick Mahomes hasn't played well. Patrick Mahomes not hitting those deep shots, even when they've been open. He's a guy. I mean, as of right now, Andy, and it kind of feels like where it got to with Andy Reid in the end of his days in Philly, right? The offensive guru, the offensive mind. It's starting to feel like we've lost the luster of it. They've tried to replace Tyreek Hill, and I'll be honest, they've not replaced him. Now I know they've won 2 Super Bowls since then, and you would say, man, what? They won. They're multi-time champions, even without Tyreek Hill. Yes, they have replaced him. No, they haven't. They have not truthfully replaced what Tyreek Hill brought to that offense. They've managed without Tyreek Hill in that offense, but they've not replaced it. That production hasn't been replaced. Who's been the playmaker since then? Rashee Rice. That ain't who you. I know that's not who you're telling me is the guy. They've been able to do it by committee, and it's worked. And they have who I think is to be the best quarterback, and they have who I think to be the best offensive coach in the game, and they've been able to figure it out. So I mean, and kudos, and their defense has also changed. Like their defense is much different than what they were the first time they won their Super Bowl. So a lot's changed in that time frame. So you talk about though you talk about how they won those. Their philosophy changed at that point. Like that they play defense. They're a defense first team that can get stops and that can allow for games to stay close. So if you leave it to one of the best quarterbacks in the game that have to go figure out a way to go get a field goal or a touchdown, yeah, with a handful of opportunity, with some more opportunities left, he can bring you home. Philadelphia, they won another game. I don't know. Look, at what point does AJ Brown go off? Like, how many more games can you go and your quarterback throws for 100 yards and your wide receiver one stays quiet? He can't right now, and he's trying to be a good soldier because they're winning. But at a point, it does become like, bro, why am I here? Why did you guys bring me here? If I'm not here to make plays, why am I here? You know what I'm saying? So I think Philly. At a point, I think they open up the offense, right? No way this continues through week 3 and 4. I expect by the end of the first month of the season, Jalen Hurts would have gotten back to throwing for 230 yards and, you know what I'm saying, 11 tush pushes. You know what I'm saying? 11 mushes to the ass. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately for Kansas City, dog, I don't know. I don't think they'll figure it out, right? Kansas City, I don't expect this team not to make the playoffs. I don't expect this team not to be a player in the AFC at all. I just think that I just don't see them winning the division. I think the Chargers continue to impress me after their Monday night victory against the Raiders. All right, their defense is what impresses me the most. Their offense still is, it's fine. It works. It gets the job done. Quentin Johnson's figured out how to play football. Got Keenan Allen back. I think is good for Justin Herbert. But their defense is where they're gonna be the most dangerous, and as long as that defense continues to play at that level, and I hope at a point Justin Herbert and that offense find their stride, then they'll be fine. They'll be they're the third team in the AFC that I'm like, okay, this is it. Because the first two are Baltimore and Buffalo. And as of right now, it's Buffalo as my number one, because I think right now they just as long as they can figure out how to, as long as Baltimore can keep blowing 20-point, keep blowing multi-touchdown leads, then they can never be my number one team to this point. So what else? What other key games happened, man? What else happened? Obviously Chicago got blown out by Detroit. Through 2 games, boy, Caleb Williams, man, is it's not great. It's definitely not great. Oh, here's the thing, right? The Green Bay Packers. That team, the difference Micah Parsons has made on that roster, boy, oh boy. Like, I know I think everybody initially said, like, Green Bay's not a contender just because of that trade. It's not that trade alone doesn't do it. But at least through the regular season, we know they'll be good. Because Michael Parsons through the regular seasons is a great player. Michael Parsons in the playoffs has not performed up to the billing. But Michael Parsons being in the room makes everybody better. It makes every pass rusher in your room better. It makes every linebacker better. It makes every defensive back better because he is affecting the game whether he's registering a stat or not. He is applying pressure. He is a menace. He continues to his presence is felt throughout the game, all throughout. And Washington and Jaden Daniels felt that. I think the Washington Commanders are one of my favorites in the NFC. They're one of those teams that I think are going to be players in the NFC by the time we get to the end of the season. But as long as Michael Parsons is out there, every quarterback in the NFC going to have to keep their head on the swivel. The rest of that team just elevates alongside with that. So, yeah. With that being said, I'm your host, Shanti Stewart. This has been Gym Dropper Sports, and I'm out.